Hello and welcome into the JaxUSL report. Along with Mauricio Ruiz, I'm Cole Pepper, and well, here we go. That's a phrase we've used a couple of times. Start of the Women's World Cup, start of the announcement for the Super League team coming to Jacksonville. But here we go for a lot of European and international soccer, including the start of the Premier League. Let's get into it here right off the top, Mauricio. Premier League got underway this past weekend and into the early portion of the week. Give me your sense of what your expectations are for the Premier League this year and who really stood out to you in week one.
Well, it seems like City really kind of just turned over the year about the same. And they had a little bit of a roster turnover, but with Haaland scoring 2 goals, the leading goal scorer from last year actually kicks off the Premier League with the first goal too. I'm excited what's going to happen at the top because it seems that now we don't really have a power 4 or 5. I mean, there's like 6 or 7. Newcastle coming into the play, Chelsea kind of rebirth with Pochettino, and Tottenham, kind of new environment as well. I'm a fan of what Man U has done in the offseason as far as what their signing is and how the pieces are going to come together. I think they still have a couple pieces to figure out, especially in the back line with Maguire if they replace them. But I'll love to see them contend against Man City. And I think when Manchester United is in contention for a title, it's better for the league.
It does make for interesting storylines when you have those big clubs who are really going at it and playing well. You sort of know who the players are, so to speak, within the course of the league. Of course, I always love to see that surprise team. I don't know if we'll see a Leicester City this year, but you mentioned Newcastle, who has been a big club, returning. Very impressive start for their season. Is there anybody else who's kind of flying under the radar a little bit? Do you think we need to keep an eye on to see how they do, if they can crawl into that top 5 or 6?
I think it's going to be difficult to climb underneath. I mean, you've had West Ham a few times. You like to think of like someone like Brentford, right? They're a greedy team. They're going to earn wins time and time. They take points away from the big guys. I don't know if they're going to climb in top 4, but I think there's going to be that battle for that 5th and 6th place, which kind of really contends into Europe as well. But I love Brighton. I love what Brighton does. I love how they play, and I think they broke into last year. And with what have they done in the offseason with signing, I think Brighton's going to have a big say in kind of how to take points away from the top 5, top 6.
Well, that's going to be interesting, something we'll be following as the season unfolds here in the Premier League. A lot of course, fans in our area have their favorite Premier League teams to watch as well. Of course, a lot of fans in our area, we're hoping you'll be able to watch the action for JaxUSL, both in terms of the USL Championship and the USL Super League. And if you want to get your deposits down right now for season tickets, just go to JaxUSL.com and put your deposits for season tickets now as the seasons and the inaugural seasons approach for both teams. Let's transition now into Mauricio's Corner, take a closer look at what's happening with the USL Championship. And Mauricio, let's start right out with taking a look at some of the results from this past week. And once again, goals being scored in bunches and sometimes in lopsided games here as we get closer and closer to the stretch run.
Yeah, I really can't figure out a couple of teams into the league. I think we talked about El Paso a couple weeks ago, how they were on the climb. They were winning so many games. And you see in the scoreline there at the bottom of the screen, 5-0 against Phoenix, which is a good team. They can put goals on you, but really lopsided there. And then you look at London United, a good greedy result from them, and they're struggling at the bottom of the league. So that's a good result for them against Las Vegas.
And you mentioned goals being scored in bunches. You got Tampa Bay putting up a 4 spot, and San Antonio, who's been a very good goal-scoring team this year, taking care of business away at New Mexico United. So here are the Western Conference standings. Sacramento Republic continues to be the class out west. They have led most of the year, but San Antonio staying right on their heels. And watch out for both the Oakland Roots and San Diego Loyal, who are making a little bit of a push to get into that top 4. Of course, the top 8 teams make the playoffs. But Mauricio, there's El Paso Locomotive, who back on June the 14th, I was trumpeting as a potential Western Conference winner. They haven't won since June the 14th.
Yeah, there's a lot of question marks there. I mean, I think this is a league that depends a lot on the health of players and really consistency of what's happening. We've seen that in the East as well with Memphis throughout the last couple of weeks. But I think it is a question mark between Phoenix, El Paso, and Colorado there. Who's gonna stay up in a top 8? But as you mentioned, the top 4 are relevant because it gives you the first round in a playoff stage, the first round home game.
All right, now let's take a look at the Eastern Conference with Pittsburgh Riverhounds continuing to be the class in the East with Charleston Battery right behind. Tampa Bay Rowdy's been a little bit up and down, and when you start looking at what's happening in the Eastern Conference, Mauricio, there really hasn't been a red-hot team here over the last 5 matches. Pittsburgh's won their last 3, but that came on the heels of back-to-back defeats. nobody's really taking a stranglehold on this conference as the league season plays out.
Yeah, in fact, I think a couple of teams have missed opportunities to really take the lead. You look at Louisville this past weekend, tying RGV. You look at Memphis not taking on the steady pace that they were on. Tampa's been kind of up and down since the new coach. And in the 11 in Birmingham, I think a little bit of up and down there as well. So there really hasn't been, as you mentioned, a team outside of Pittsburgh that stay a little more consistent in the top two. But even them, sometimes they kind of drop those easy points.
All right, well, and we should point out that in terms, if you want to try to find the hottest team in the East, maybe it's Miami FC. They did drop a game this past week, but before that, 3 straight wins and a draw before that. So 4 good results in their last 5 as they're trying to climb back up and make the playoffs as the season approaches, the playoffs season approaches. All right, time now for our game of the week presented by GOTW, and we've got Birmingham Legion against Sacramento Republic. And we mentioned Sacramento leading the way, and they have a specific style that they are very committed to, and that can make it very difficult to break them down.
Yeah, and it's been a while since we looked at Sacramento. Almost became boring to talk about them because they just kept leading the West, and so we focused on a couple different teams. But they did come east, play Birmingham, a team that's fighting for that top 4 position. But Sacramento's consistent, Cole. Looking at their game, they don't really give up a whole lot. They don't create tons of chances, but they convert the ones that they do. They're leading the league with least goals conceded at 16, I think 17 after this game. And Birmingham, a team that can break you down, but the game's really played between the two 18-yard lines, right, within 80 yards. So I kind of just want to show you a little bit of what you see from them. This is Birmingham in white playing at home, and a lot of their chances are kind of like this. They're just from distance. Right, Sacramento, once again, they're really, really well disciplined in black. They don't give up a whole lot, and most of their chances driving in outside of the box and taking shots from distance.
And when you see that, you know that, hey, you can get a goal that way, but everything has to kind of break right for you, and that's one of the reasons Sacramento's been so good this year.
Yeah, and in the attack, they're a little bit of the same. They're very direct in how they play. They're very purposeful. They get forward, they get direct, and they create chances. They populate the box, and you can see there a chance, really a long ball played in, but they get and advance the lines. And you see here, once again, Birmingham playing between the lines. But look at Sacramento's line. They just stay nice and compact, play that they don't overcommit, and then once again, shots from distance.
We've seen it time and time again this year with Sacramento, and here is some second half action with Birmingham trying to get one, and you can see the defense here nearly turning away, and it was a second ball opportunity for Legion to get the goal.
Yeah, one of the few rare opportunities you can actually get behind the Sacramento defense, but Agudelo, veteran player, does a great job of posting it up, but he's not doesn't stay on for very long, and Sacramento comes back and they get the equalizer.
And here we go at the 71st minute. And once again, you're talking about a sort of a loose ball pinging around and trying to find that opportunity where you can.
Yeah, and second chance opportunities, as we mentioned before, and now Sacramento just committed. Archimendi come in, number 17, just came off the bench there to really propose that challenge for the Birmingham defense on the back line. And somehow Sacramento, they leave this game with a tie, with a point on the road. I think Birmingham will be upset with themselves. They had the lead towards the last 10 minutes, but Sacramento is just a greedy team. If you notice, most chances from distance that they give up, not a whole lot inside their box, but not a whole lot of highlight going forward for them either, but they do convert chances.
One of the other things that happened this week in the USL was the midweek meetings, or the mid-season meetings, happened in Colorado Springs. And one of the stories that came out of that meeting of team owners and executives was continued conversation around promotion and relegation in American soccer, and specifically in the USL with USL Championship and USL League One. There's been nothing that's been decided at this point, but the conversation does continue. So I do want to bring that up here, Mauricio, and kind of talk about the pros and cons of pro-rel as it would relate to within the scope of the USL. Let's start with the pros. What are the reasons why the USL should consider promotion and relegation?
Yeah, I think some of the top reasons that comes to mind to me. I think, first of all, I think we all would love to see pro-rel in an ideal world. Is it realistic or not? I think that's something, there's some heavy conversations that need to be taking place. But first of all, I think we want to catch up soccer in America to the rest of the world, right? So it is globalized, pro-rel in most of the countries, most modern countries such as the U.S. So I think we'd like to see the conversation just be more consistent with the rest of the world and not feel like we're playing a different brand or different rules of football here. But I think the biggest thing is games of consequence. Right, I think we have this great playoff kind of American cultural system that creates excitement. The team in the middle of the table can still make it in and make a run, but then also kind of eliminates the bottom of the table. So how do we create excitement for fans, for the community, for sponsors, that the bottom game still means something all the way towards the end?
All right, that's the pro side of pro rel. What about the con side? Certainly there are some structural obstacles, and there's a practical obstacle or two when you start talking about if you're going to promote a team up from a lower division. What does that mean from a business standpoint, and what does that mean from a soccer scheduling standpoint?
Well, I think our country is just so wide and so long, and I think travel logistics make it a bit difficult. Most of our tier 1 leagues are divisional leagues, right? So you start looking at the tiers underneath, most of them are not divisional leagues. So who comes up and who goes down based on the fact that you have, in the USL Championship, for instance, you have 12 teams on the West, 12 teams in the East, but USL League One, you only have one division. So if one gets promoted, where do they come up and who comes down and who goes up? So creating a conversation around the mechanism over divisional plays that are coming down, divisional teams that are coming down, and obviously divisional teams that are going up in the league. So, I think there's an economic impact as far as logistic and travel, and also from a brand association. Most soccer in this country, especially even in our top league in MLS and USL, the brand affiliation for the fans, for the community, for sponsors just aren't quite there yet to possibly support a relegation, right? Now, I could use the same argument for promotion. How do we get there if we don't have an opportunity to go up in the league? So it is a two-sided argument, and I understand that, but I would love to see a sponsor take on a team of a tier 2, tier 3, and invest into it, knowing that potentially that team now could ride the bandwagon into the top division.
Yeah, of course, everybody in the soccer world kind of has been captivated by watching Wrexham because of all the attention paid because of Ryan Reynolds and Rob McElhenney, and watching them gain promotion. But it happens in most every country. You've got this situation where you have teams fighting to try to get up and get to the next level, and some trying to stay in the top level and avoid relegation as well. So it's going to be an interesting thing to follow as we continue on. Next week, our game of the week presented by GOTW is El Paso Locomotive against Indy 11. This is a big one. Indy starting to get a little healthier. El Paso has just fallen off. Can they regain their momentum? We'll have a breakdown coming up next week. Thanks so much for watching the JaxUSL Report. For Mauricio Ruiz, I'm Cole Pepper. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, and we'll talk to you next week right here on the JaxUSL Report.